Hey guys, Rominating Reaper here. Well, this is it. We're into the final days of 2024. Yep, 2025 will very soon be upon us, the halfway point of the decade. And so, what better way to mark it than by looking back over the best movies I watched this calendar year. Now, a note before we begin, this will be going by UK release, so before I get a whole bunch of comments saying some of my entries came out in 2023, that they opened over here in 2024, so that is why they're on this list. Alright, now that we have that out of the way, let's begin with a few honourable mentions. And so, the honourable mentions go as follows: Late Night with the Devil, Monkey Man, Hitman, Challengers, Furiosa, Longlegs, The Holdovers, Love Lies Bleeding, and Robot Dreams. These are all great movies, but they didn't quite make the top 10. And speaking of top 10, so in at number 10 is one that snuck right in at the end of the year, but I'm really pleasantly surprised by just how much I loved it. Betterman, the Robbie Williams CGI monkey movie. Literally just saw this yesterday, and this has made the list. I had to put it on there because this, it takes the music biopic beats and does something really interesting with them, telling a deeply, raw, emotional, human story, but also does it in such a big cinematic way in the form of, a dazzling musical directed by Michael Gracie. Yeah, it is absolutely brilliant, brilliant stuff, and it's exactly the sort of thing that music biopics in the future can look to as a blueprint, not necessarily to directly copy by just randomly inserting animals into real stories, but rather looking at it as an example of just how creative they can be. Whether or not they will, that remains to be seen. I will say though, this is not the only biopic in this list, so maybe the tide is turning sooner than we thought. In at number 9 is one of the best and funniest comedies of recent years, so of course I had to include it on the list. Hundreds of Beavers. Yeah, this thing is brilliant, It is a live action Looney Tunes episode, drawing influence as well from like video games and like silent era slapstick comedy. It is just a live action feature length cartoon, and it is just every bit as nuts as you'd expect. It was made on a very low budget. It was made by a small handful of actors in beaver costumes, mascot costumes, and that sort of lower budget feel really adds to the whole cartoony aesthetic of it all. It's just, it is so funny. I laughed wholeheartedly throughout this, especially towards the end, as some absolutely nuts sight gags reveal themselves. And it's also technically a Christmas movie because Santa Claus plays a part in it. Yeah, if you have not seen this movie, I would highly recommend it. You will absolutely love it. In at number 8 is my favorite horror film of the year, The Substance, starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. This thing is just an absolute wild ride. It's got some absolutely gnarly body horror sequences with just some absolutely fantastic practical effects on display here. It's all in service of a film, very much satirizing, the unrealistic beauty standards that women in the public eye are held to. But it plays itself with this really heightened sense of logic, playing itself almost in a fairy tale kind of way, and he's got some real stylized cinematography, and it should speak volumes that the most disgusting scene is a scene early on of a close-up shot of Dennis Quaid eating shrimp. But my god, yeah, this thing goes absolutely wild in its last act. When that title card dropped, yeah, I knew I was in for something else entirely. Yeah, it is a great experience, and it's clearly connected on a certain level with audiences. I believe it's movie's highest grossing film ever. And yeah, it's easy to see why. It is a movie that just plays so well with a crowd. In at number seven is a film that I unfortunately missed at the cinema, but I watched it on Disney Plus, and I gotta admit, it had me a bit teary eyed at the end. And that is All of Us Strangers. Yeah, this was a brilliant movie. It's got great performances from Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal, as well as Jamie Bell and Claire Foy as the parents of Andrew Scott's character, who he sees the ghosts of when he visits his old childhood home. Yeah, it's very much a film about letting go of the past and embracing the future, but also contrasting the gay experience of the 80s versus, how much things have changed nowadays. It's got a wonderfully curated soundtrack and great cinematography with a certain level of restraint to it as well. And those emotional gut punches, oh, they hit hard. It is fantastic. It's also now established a system of if Paul Mescal dances on screen, things are going to get very depressing by the end, and it also means that now every time I hear Frankie Goes to Hollywood's "The Power of Love," my mind will just automatically go right back to that ending. Absolutely devastating stuff, but it's so good at the same time. In at number six is the other music biopic of the list, and one of particular importance to me because it's telling a local Belfast story, and that is Kneecap. Yeah, this movie was absolutely brilliant. It's so creative, full of wild, drug fueled flourishes like claymation ketamine trips, and it's a film that is just so wildly unafraid to take the piss out of itself, but also has good messages about preserving indigenous languages that it takes very seriously. And the lads, considering they're not professional actors, do a great job, really holding their own alongside professional actors like Michael Fassbender. And of course, the film's full of Kneecap's actual songs, which are all great songs. In fact, last month I actually had the chance to attend an event at which the film's director Rich Pepiot spoke about the challenges of making a film in the Irish language. Yeah, it's clearly paid off because, not only has it really connected with audiences, it's really boosted the appeal of the language, and the film has been shortlisted for Best International Feature at the forthcoming Oscars, which I have my fingers crossed. I hope it gets it. Like, come on, lads. All of Belfast is rooting for yous. Okay, so we are into the top five now, and coming in at number five is a film that proved to be something of an unexpected crowd pleaser. From Yorgos Lanthimos comes Poor Things. Yeah, this movie was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. It's an absolutely wild ride. It's full of absurd visuals and set design. It's just so brilliantly made. It's got this absolutely hilarious pitch black sense of humor, but also at the same time is a fairly sincere coming of age tale centered around like female sexual liberation and also how we as humans develop our worldviews. We got to see the bad in order to fully understand and appreciate the good. And it's got great performances from the likes of Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo. It's such a brilliant movie, and it's very much if you're on Yorgos Lanthimos's weird wavelength, yeah, you'll probably be into it. And given the box office receipts, it seems that a lot of audiences have really connected with it. And it's kind of easy to see why. It's just a darkly comic, absurdist delight. In at number four is a film that is a suitably devastating telling of a devastating real life story, and that is The Iron Claw. All about the Von Erich wrestling family. Look, the entire second half of this movie is just devastating, full of heavy tragedy after heavy tragedy, hitting these hard gut punches, right in the heart. But at the same time, the first half of is this real tenderly written look at brotherly love. But it's the tenderness of that first half that allows the heavy tragedy of the second half to hit even harder. It's got great soundtrack, including an iconic literal needle drop, and it's also full of fantastic performances, especially from Zac Efron, who gives easily the best performance of his career. It's a shame this didn't get any love from any of the awards bodies, especially from the Academy. But the many counts of people coming out of the cinema seeing this with tears in their eyes, I think more than speaks for itself. It has more than left its mark. We're into the top three now, and coming in at number three is a Netflix film. Yes, I know a Netflix film has actually made my list, and this tells a very interesting true story. Society of the Snow, all about a rugby team in Uruguay whose plane crash lands in the Andes and they're forced to eat each other in their desperate bid for survival. This has obviously been the subject of a film before. It was, of course, told in the film Alive. But this feels like such an honest, emotionally raw telling of the tale. This is a hard hitting man versus nature tale, all about how, faith gets us through, but not faith in, like, God, faith in each other. So it means that obviously it's grounded in these emotional moments that hit hard and have such, an intimate sense of humanity about them. But at the same time, by the end, it's also, incredibly full of hope as well. After all the bleakness we've had to endure over the course of its runtime, yes, including the guys eating each other, it's just a fantastic film. If you're into rugby and you're interested in this particular story, this is a fantastic telling of it. You'll absolutely love this film. In at number two is another one that snuck right in at the end of the year, but honestly, I'm not at all surprised this has made the list because it is Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. Look, I love Wallace and Gromit. We all love Wallace and Gromit. And to be honest, this was an absolute triumph of return for them. This is a feature film running at 80 minutes, but yet it's paced so well that it actually does not feel any longer than the actual Wallace and Gromit shorts, because it's packed so full of plot, character development, gags, genuinely emotional moments, and of course the return of cinema's greatest villain, Feathers McGraw, that runtime just flies by. Aardman really pulled out all the stops on this charmingly animated stop motion delight, full of good messages about mankind's reliance on technology. Yeah, honestly, all I have to say on this is that I genuinely cannot wait to see what hilarious hijinks Wallace and Gromit find themselves in next. So, before we can find out what the number one film of the year is, this is something I always do. Every year I give a special mention to a film that deserves a shout out, and this is a film that has gone under the radar of many. But, if you're an action movie fan, you're going to absolutely love Kill. Yeah, this is an Indian film. It's sort of a mix of The Raid, Die Hard, and Bullet Train. As an army commando fights off a whole family of criminals who have hijacked a train headed for Delhi. My god, this thing is just, once that title card drops, yeah, this thing is a non-stop, brutal thrill ride, full of really well staged action that, and jaw-dropping, brutal kills that, not only rivals some of what Hollywood has to offer, but it actually makes the John Wick franchise look like a kid's film series in comparison. In fact, the rights to an American remake of it have landed at the hands of 8711, the guys responsible for John Wick. And I'm normally wary of the prospect of American remakes of foreign films, because how long have remakes of The Raid and Train to Busan sat in development hell? But if there is anyone that I think can do this film justice in Hollywood, it is Chad Stahelski and co. Well, folks, this is it. The moment has come. My number one film of 2024. And well, it's no surprise what it is. Madam Web. No, of course it's Dune Part 2. Like, seriously, man, this thing is just such a sweeping epic of a film with, fantastic, world building on such a grand scale. Greg Fraser's cinematography is, gorgeous and really captures the sweeping scale of it all. You got Hans Zimmer's epic booming score. Fantastic immersive sound design. It's so good. I saw this twice at the cinema. The second time being in IMAX, which is just one of my favorite cinema experiences ever. Like, it really made the world of Arrakis feel that much bigger, that much more immersive. Like, seriously, man, Denis Villeneuve should take a bow. Like, he has done the impossible and adapted an unfilmable book for the screen and done it with flying colors. I'm really excited to see how he fares in adapting Dune Messiah. I'm also looking forward to seeing his adaptation of another old sci-fi novel, Rendezvous with Rama. And yeah, so if he sticks the landing, yeah, Denis Villeneuve could well be the classic sci-fi guy. And yeah, that is my top 10 films of 2024. Let me know down in the comments what your top 10 list of the year looks like. I'd definitely like to see other perspectives. Maybe there are films on there that are on your list that aren't on mine. Maybe there's a bit of overlap in some of the films as well. Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.